tough when you're in PC. Life's rough when you depend on me to give you weapons and information for your journey, and still you still push it and try to hurt me. Life's tough when you're in PC. Life's rough.
Okay, so this video is going to be a little different, and I am really excited to do it if you can't tell. This requires a little bit of backstory. Whenever I was doing the Hunter the Vigil video, I usually go and do some supplemental research online. I go to fandom pages, wikia pages, whatever. I have ADHD, so it's sometimes a little hard for me to focus on reading text, and especially, like, very concise stuff like that really helps me jog something, especially if it's something like Hunter the Vigil, which before the video I hadn't read in a while. So after reading the book, I usually go to collect more information on other websites to make sure that I've absorbed what I really want to talk about. And while I was doing that, I ended up on 1D4chan, which is just a collection of various like things. It's kind of like a Wikipedia page for RPGs. And I saw something that I never really like looked into before, which was these like fan-made World of Darkness games, and apparently there's a lot of them. And like I knew that there was like a couple out there that would sometimes come about in weird ways, but I never really saw this big collection of them. And 1D4chan actually had like 7 games to discuss, and then like whenever I started to dig through those, I learned that there were more out there. And so this turned into a rabbit hole as I was kind of researching. As a matter of fact, it took me way longer than I usually do for videos, just going through all of this, because after a while I was like, I got all of these games, I've read through as much as I can, and I if I continue to do this video, it's going to be like 40 minutes long, so now I got to edit it, and so I have to cut down from like 10 to 4, which I thought was like a pretty good, solid idea. So I really wanted to like showcase a couple of these, some for being kind of laughably bad and you kind of wonder how they came to be, and others for being like really legitimately good, to the point where like, especially for the 2 that I'm going to highlight as the better ones, I'm not really sure why they're not World of Darkness games. Like, the ideas alone, like, I mean, they both needed tweaking a little bit, but all in all, they were really good games. So I'm going to spotlight 4 games on here of World of Darkness fan games that I found online to showcase to all of you, and also to show that, like, if you're a huge World of Darkness fan, like a huge World of Darkness fan, and if you want to expand what you consider to be your personal canonized world that you might create, this might be a fun way to actually expand, to create things that actually are not even in the official World of Darkness universe. Things like zombies, things like princesses, or like magical girls, and things like Highlander, and so forth. So this video is showcasing some of the more interesting fan-made World of Darkness games. So get ready, because this is a unique video, and no matter what, I'm going to say some negative things about at least 2 of them, some good things about them, but regardless, I recommend anyone who's a World of Darkness fan to venture down this rabbit hole and start digging through some of the fan-made games, because that was a fucking trip, and it took me 2 weeks to actually finish this damn thing, so here we are. So regardless, the way that this is going to work is that I'm going to be highlighting some of the games. There's altogether 4, and it's just going to be quick little mini reviews. Just quick highlight, talk about some aspects of it, give it a crit or miss, and then move on to the next one. So this video is like 1 video, but it's really like 4 reviews in one. With that being said, we're going to start with Highlander The Gathering. And oh my god, looking at the page already just fills my heart with so much sadness. You know, I really feel bad for Highlander fans, like I really, really do, because out of all fandoms, which I'm legitimately surprised that Highlander fans still exist in this universe, legitimately, is that, like, Highlander was a good movie from the 80s, and it collected this cult following. It had some really good ideas to it, and then every single thing past the first movie has been either horrendous, terrible, god-awful, almost unwatchable, with the second movie being, like, considered to be one of the worst movies of all time. And it's so strange that there is a fandom of people out there that love this so much, and then they constantly are hit with disappointment and sadness. And I was thinking, this is a fan-made game. Right as I went in, I was like, this is a fan-made game for Highlander The Gathering. How can someone fuck this up? How can you legitimately fuck up a fan-made version of something? You're a huge fan. Like, this should be like the one thing that Highlander fans can have. And then I see the 1d4 page, and the rabbit hole of sadness just keeps going. It's like the movie's cursed. Look at this thing. It is legitimately 5 sentences, and the opening line called the first movie a decent film. I mean, I can't believe it. Like, even the fan page, the edited fan page, which, I mean, like, I guarantee you someone who's a Highlander fan can go on there and edit this, but, like, even the fan page, at the time that I have recorded this, could not even say that Highlander was a good, great, or amazing movie, which are all words that can be used to describe it. They called it a decent movie. And then, of all the pictures to choose from, you get, legitimately, not from Highlander, but from one of Sean Connery's most egregious mistakes. And yes, I am also including Highlander 2 The Quickening. And then we look at the webpage, and oh child, how weird does it feel to see a fan-made page from, like, the Windows 98 days. Hell, even before that, as it states that this game was going to come out at Gen Con 95. And boy, let's see how well that worked out for our creators. Failed release and website aside, unfortunately, whenever you start digging through the rules and the information, you can see why it didn't materialize. The game itself is straightforward, the movie of Highlander. The prize, the story of the immortals, it is all there with no alterations, changes, or different interpretations. I do find it interesting that we actually see, like, a prototype of what we see today, where a lot of people create web pages to kind of, you know, sell their games that they're going to be playing. It's really interesting to see that that was actually still happening in the 90s, and even to today, so at least that was a fun way to go down memory lane. But as far as the game is concerned, you can go to the page and read through it yourself. There's not a lot there, and it's very quick to understand why this game never materialized. It really was clearly a couple of people who had an idea at the literal earliest days of World of Darkness, whenever, like, Vampire first came out, and at least looking at that and saying, hey, we can create different games. And maybe they were thinking about Werewolf and whatnot, and Highlander they pulled out as probably a good idea, but eventually I think people may have wisened up to the idea that creating an actual carbon copy of a movie might not be the best decision for the World of Darkness line. So this game understandably gets a miss, and it's just not a great game, but it's really, really worth reading through, checking the page, and just seeing just such disappointment. I'm so sorry, Highlander fans. Like, you deserve so much better. The next game on the docket is one that I am legitimately surprised has never turned into a legit World of Darkness game. The game that I'm talking about is Zombie the Coil. This one is pretty damn cool, and out of all of the fan-based games I found, this is the one that I think, like, truly understood the World of Darkness roots, and actually took different, like, prototypes and things and really melded it together into what I think legitimately should be a World of Darkness game. And it's not so much like Walking Dead zombies, it's much more like The Crow sort of deal. It's much more... It's a story about undead, but it certainly has a lot more intelligence to it, and I think that it plays a lot more with the ideas of having your body rotten or how your body looked at the time of becoming undead. I think that there's a lot of good that can really be played here, and especially if you like combine it with something like Wraith or Geist the Sin Eaters or something, which I know are two different World of Darkness lines, but the idea is still the same, where like how does a body become reanimated, what happens to the spirit, things like that I think is like really, really fun. Similar to Vampire, feeding to regain vitae, zombies have to feed to gain viscera. Dependent upon the type of zombie you are, you can either feed on living flesh or dead flesh. This comes in the form of a Grand or a Jackal. You also have states of decomposition. Pele's are recently awakened corpses and can pass as human, while Notchen are decayed beyond recognition and in some cases are pretty much skeletons, and Karns are somewhere in between. The groups are also separated into kind of like Camarilla, Sabbat, and Anarch sort of factions, and you can definitely see where the creator here actually got a lot of Vampire and kind of used it in a really good way with Zombie the Coil. Unfortunately, on the 1d4 page, the actual link to the rulebook is no longer there. However, you can still find it on Scribe.com, and the character sheet is also still on Mr. Gon's webpage. So, I seriously recommend finding these, downloading them, and playing them. This game gets a crit, and I legitimately think that it was a missed opportunity that this game never became a World of Darkness game. Alright, let's see here. What's next on the list? Okay, Genius the Transgression. I don't know how I feel about this, I'll be honest with you, because even the name alone is funky. The name alone feels like a World of Darkness fan took a Philosophy 101 class and then decided that intelligence in and of itself was a superpower. Now luckily, Genius still has its core rulebook set up online you can find, and as you can see, holy hell! This thing is 489 pages long! Alright, I want to give you all a reference point of size here, because I don't think you really understand how huge 489 pages are. So here we have the actual D&D 5th edition Player's Handbook. This one clocks in at 317 pages on the PDF. The Vampire the Requiem game, similar, has 319 pages. And this, the Vampire V20 20th Anniversary Edition, that has the whole damn thing, everything in here, clocks in at 519 pages. So, Genius the Transgression, a fan game, is just a few pages short of this monster of a book. Which I would even understand to an extent. Fan games tend to get really far into the mythos as they're not given a release of 3 to 5 books to go with it. So you really have to fit as much as you can into one book. But even then, that is if the premise is worthwhile, and Genius the Transgression, unfortunately, is not worth the page length that it is, and I can sum this up really well. As a matter of fact, 1D4chan does a great job summing this up, and it's pretty much like this. It says in the opening paragraph that this game is essentially Sons of Aether, the game. So it is an entire game based on one concept from Mage the Ascension in the new World of Darkness line. The game is a hyper-focused game that takes one small concept from Mage the Ascension and enhances it into a whole game. Geniuses are mad scientists who do crazy and wondrous things with their magic. And even then, I can understand that to an extent, that you maybe wanted to create an addendum to Mage the Awakening. Whenever it came to creating the New World of Darkness line, New World of Darkness was very much about streamlining everything. That's why I really have a hard time playing Vampire the Requiem, because they cut out so much of Vampire the Masquerade, which, once again, I don't know if I can really blame them. It's this fucking big. So, I can understand that you may still want to play a Society of Aether with new rules. However, that's not what this is. That's not what this is at all. What this is an entire game that goes into hyper-focused territories, micro-analyzing every single step, to the point where I don't think I can fully engage in it. It is simply far too complicated. One of the joys of Chronicles of Darkness is that it streamlined a lot of problems from World of Darkness and simplifies its system. Genius tosses that idea right out the window and has pages after pages of adding complication to a system that really doesn't call for it or need it. Ultimately, this game definitely gets a miss. It's way too long, and whenever you really look at all of the complication that was added to this game, it just doesn't add up to something that's really worth the time to actually look into. If you really want to play a Society of Ether, go play Mage of the Ascension, man. I mean, Genius just doesn't add enough to the table to be considered a good game, tragically. So I think it's a fan game that you can definitely pass on. Alright. So we got one left. We have one left here. What is it? Princess the Hopeful. Alright, let's see where this goes. So Princess the Hopeful, if you can't tell from the obvious Sailor Moon reference, is a game that focuses on being a magical girl, similar to other games that we've looked at in the past, like Magical Burst. And just like the Genius game, this one clocks in at 486 damn pages. And man, let me tell you, it's rough to go through. It's rough to go through it all, not gonna lie. However, unlike Genius, which was a retread of very well-worn territory in a hyper-focused sense, at least this one had new, interesting, and fresh creative ideas. Does it go more than a little overboard? Most certainly. Also not helped by the fact that the only artwork is the cover and the rest is text. I think that there is a solid amount of this that can be chopped out without losing much of what the creator is going for. Such is the life when you have a fan-made game with no oversight on what you are actually creating. Then you really don't have a good eye for what should be kept and what should be cut. However, at least with this one, it feels new and engaging. It's different sort of game. It's a different sort of game I haven't seen in World of Darkness since Changeling the Dreaming. And honestly, if I'm comparing you favorably to Changeling the Dreaming, that's definitely worth saying something. Similar to Changeling, though, we really do need to also have the discussion on whether or not this should be a World of Darkness game. Changeling walked a fine line in its skirting the essence of World of Darkness games to the point that it may have fallen off of the edge itself. Princess the Hopeful does not fare so well, and it doesn't necessarily walk the tightrope as it does immediately tumble off of it into the safety net. The game's very different from World of Darkness. It's to the point that it feels like the person had a really good idea for magical girls and just attached the dice system to this game. And I really think that you honestly probably should ditch the dice system and start making your own dice system, because this game doesn't fit in World of Darkness. It doesn't. It's very different. It's very cheerful. Even kind of the more darker aspects of it, it's still very, very cheerful. Too cheerful to the point where I don't think that it really fits in the mythos. However, I'm still giving it a crit because it's a really good game. Seriously, this thing is great. It's inventive, it's imaginative, and its creator is still working hard on it. And honestly, with all the time and effort put into it, just write a damn book, man, with your own dice system and sell it. Hell, there are people that have created 10-page long games right now, selling them for $5 a pop on DriveThruRPG. All I'm saying is you got something here that can be made into a legitimate game, and you should definitely nurture it. And that is the World of Darkness fan games that I want to cover this time. Is there more out there? Yes, dear God, there is. Holy hell. There is so much more out there. There's 3 alone on 1D4chan that I did not cover in this video. There are at least 10 others that I have found online digging through this thing that I did not cover. Will I cover them in the future? Maybe. Depends on how well this one does. But The idea is that this is a rabbit hole that I thoroughly enjoyed. Thoroughly enjoyed to the point that, like, 2 weeks of research into this went by me before I got this video out, to the point where I was like, damn it, I have to release this fucking video. So, keep that in mind, that there is a lot out there, and you really should, especially if you're a World of Darkness fan, dive into these things, because some are not great. Others are really, really good. And if you really want to add something more to your canon, to your mythos, to the worlds that you build, some of them might be worth it. So, I encourage everyone, go out there, find these fan games. I encourage, if you want to make a fan game, you should do it. You should go right now, make one, and post it online. Granted, if it's bad, assholes like me are going to rip it a new one. However, I'm still going to be talking about it, and it might actually still push you forward into making a game of your own. And I really encourage that. So, thank you all so much for watching. Please like and subscribe for more, and please, if you have an idea, get it out and see what happens. You might be surprised at how good your ideas are. Thank you all for watching, and I look forward to talking to you next week.